Hello and welcome back to the channel again. Okay, another day, another play with the BIA. Hope people aren't getting bored with this setup. Had some good feedback on the BIA setups here, so going to do one more video. Hopefully this will be the last one. Things are set up a little bit more complicated. There's a bit more going on here, but I'll come to that as I go through it. Obviously, the biggest difference here is the NerdSeq. I'll save that for another video as to why I'm going to be using this a lot. Haven't gone off my other sequencers. I mean, Metropolis is still one of my most favorite sequencers ever, but I'm going to be using this a lot more going forward, and I'll explain why in a future video. If anyone wants some sort of breakdown on this, I've been using trackers since the 1980s with the Commodore Amiga days. There's a few videos out there on it, but not a lot. So if anyone's interested in why I've switched over to that, let me know and I'll probably set something up. Okay, so let's get into today's patch. It's pretty similar, BIA, with some modulation over here. Laquelic is doing something. See if you can figure it out. If you're on your iPhone, you'll have no idea. But if you've got decent set of speakers that you're listening to this on, you might be able to hear what's going on. Okay, so without further ado, I'll get into it and then we'll go on to the breakdown. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. Bit of preparation there. I did do a few things in advance, so I'll just go through how I've come up with that patch, and then I'll go through some individual breakdowns. And this time what we'll do is I'll turn off all effects so you can actually hear exactly what the BIA is doing and what it's being modulated by, and then bring in the mimeophone and we'll just see just how much this helps. So your main voice here needs a lot of modulation, is the sum of it. Okay, so let's make a start and we'll get into the patch. So I start off with a save point here in save point 8, which I came up with just by load tread till I came up with something that sounded good. And then what we've just done is we've just started off with the filter down quite low. What's going on here? If we just go through modulations here. In fact, no, before we do that, I'll explain what the Liquelic's doing. So if you're on an iPhone, you won't hear this. It's just adding some bassline. So if I turn off the BIA by turning the filter all the way down and start the sequence. Now, if you can hear that Liquelic, you're listening on something half decent. There's just a little bit of bass coming out there. And all it's doing is it's got a very, very short envelope here. And I've got a low pass filter turned down really low with a bit of resonance, and that's just giving us something a little bit below where the kick is. So if I bring the kick in, it's just a little bit of extra oomph into that kick, and it's also playing slightly off beat from the kick occasionally, so it's a little bit rhythmic, but they're mostly to help the kick. So if we turn this off, that's just the kick, and then bring the bass back in. Now, like I said, if you're on your phone, you're not going to hear that. All you're going to be hearing is me playing a kick here, so not very interesting, but that's what that's doing. That's all it's there for. Okay, so let's get into the meat of it then, the BIA. So we start off with the filter down low. Quite a lot of tracks start with the filter low, and then they slowly bring the filter up as they introduce more interest into the track, and that's kind of where I went with this. So, starting off with minimal modulation here, because these two are giving me most of my modulation. So channel 1 here, if we just follow this through, is going into the fold. Channel 2 is going into the attack. If you don't know what I've been doing with the attack, I start with the attack quite low, but with the attack up quite high here, it will take the attack up, and we won't get much in the way of sort of noisy percussive sounds, because it will take the attack up here. If you're interested in that, go and check out one of my previous videos. I explain how the BIA works, but there's plenty of videos if you need it. And then what else have we got going on here? So most of the sound changes are coming from the filter modulation here on channel 3, and also on channel 4, which is going into the morph. Now the morph is what goes from your different sound type. So you're probably going from a saw. I think I've got saw here, and then if I increase this was giving me more of a square wave. That was actually making quite a bit of difference, so I started off low down. Now historically what I've done with this is I've always started on bass mode here on the skin, and I've never really used metal, but I've been really getting into the metal recently. So we started off with a metal, we went to skin, and then we went back to metal, and I'm really enjoying this metal. I've spent probably had it a whole year, and I didn't even use the metal mode. Obviously the liquid mode is I think it's got an envelope on it, so that's where you get your standard kick drum sounds from, but I always like it in bassline mode in skin. But yeah, really enjoying the metal, which I think is more of a FM modulation mode. Not quite sure, but sounds good. Okay, so let's start with how we started the patch off. I'll leave the mimeophone on, and then we'll turn it off, and we'll just see just how much that adds into the patch. So we started here on the metal mode with no morph at all and no FM modulation, and then we just increased the filter and then we added the kick in. So let's just see what the frequency modulation adds here. So that adds quite a bit already. But then when we add in the morph, That's giving us our main bass line, a bit of percussion in there, and that's all coming from the BIA. If I turn off Laquelic, like I said, if you're on your iPhone, you'll hear nothing there, but that just adds a little tiny bit on the bottom end. So if we bring it back in, I can hear that on my headphones. Hopefully you can too. And this was our main point within the patch. Everything up in metal mode. Can break it down, take the kick off. Okay, now let's just see what the mimeophone adds to this patch. Let's turn off the mimeophone. Bring the modulation back in. And the kick. I mean, that's pretty nice on its own, but then bring the mimeophone back. So yeah, mimeophone, like I said, it's in all my patches. Really love this thing. If I could have something similar in half the size, I would. Don't really need everything here. We just need a dry wet. I love the color. The color will filter out how wet. So if you've never seen the mimeophone before, if we go fully wet, the color is our filter. So kind of just filter a little bit and go about 33% wet. 33% wet. Yeah, so there's the mimeophone. You'll see that the steppies actually patched up here through. I've got clock on reset up the top here. At some point I was using steppy here and sending an envelope through Javelin out into the carbon, which was giving me some nice acid sounds, but I didn't want to overcomplicate the patch, keep it nice and simple. This is all about the BIA after all. Okay, and then what I did was I then broke it down. So let's take the kick out, simplify the patch, filter down, and then I went over to the skin mode in bassline, but I realized that I had to turn the decay down a little bit. So notes are too long, and then increase the filter. And a kick. Now the modulation when we're in this skin mode was a little bit overkill by changing the morph, bringing this into square mode, so I didn't really like doing that, so I was actually playing this a bit. So if we increase the filter modulation here, so turn it down, that sounds good modulating the filter, but watch what happens when I start moving this to a square wave. It overpowers it. I think that's too much. So I kind of just played it a bit, so you just get the odd square note. So if you listen, much better there on the saw wave, and just introducing the odd square, because if we stay square, I mean, maybe if I turn the morph down to 0, yeah, it still doesn't work very well, so kind of liked it there and just play a little bit of squaring. Now, so let's go back to metal mode here. And then the other thing that I had going on here was I had a couple of other save points that were quite good. Now this one on save point 3 was giving us a lot more negative attack. So you're kind of getting this snare coming in. I mean, this thing can produce any sound you want. Bass lines, kick drums, snares, hats, you name it. If you modulated it right, you get an entire drum kit out of this thing. Turn mimeophone off. That's how much the mimeophone adds. Going back to original save point. And for anyone that's interested in what the NerdSeq's doing here, you can see, if you can see the screen on here, let me see if I can just zoom this. Not sure if that helps a little bit. I do need to improve my video editing skills, because up there is just an iPhone and all I did was go like that. So in the future, like I've said, if this channel gets enough subscribers, if it goes into 4 figures, which it might well do soon, then I am going to do some proper video editing. God help you. Okay, so on the NerdSeq here, there are 4 patterns here on row 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is giving us 4 patterns, 0, 0, 0 and 1 on the main pattern here. Ignore channel 2, that's just the Laquelic, so we'll just ignore that for now. And all this pattern is doing is playing C notes with a couple of C sharps and C's in. And then if we switch back to the 4th pattern in the 64, this is just like a breakdown version. So as we get to this one here, it's a bit simpler. Now the other thing that I did, we reset this, let's just make it more simple, was I went over to this one here, and if I press play now, it's swapping channel 1. So the Laquelic is still playing here on channel 2. And channel 1 is just repeating this one here. Now if I go in, the only thing I've done that's different is I've gone for a C an octave higher, which is giving us that 1 note. A little bit higher. And then when I'm ready, I can reset channel 1 back to start up here. So there we go, and it'll come in now. So nothing too complicated there on the NerdSeq. Just a little loop just to pretty much show off the BIA. So if anyone wants to know why I've started using this and I'm going to use it a lot going forwards, then let me know. I'll do a whole video on why. Maybe not in these kind of videos, but in my main system, I'm using this a lot now. Basically, I can control everything from it. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed that one. Just going to play this one out a little bit more. I'm really enjoying creating these things for people. Like I've said before, please don't forget to like it. If you do like the video, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. Don't care. Like I've said before as well, I do really care. Of course, everyone cares. It's nice to get positive feedback on your videos, so if you do like it, click the like. And also, if you do like it a lot, then feel free to subscribe. I'm up to about 940 subscribers at the minute. So yeah, pretty much closing in on the 1,000. This was pretty much my channel to just demonstrate my journey into modular, but I'm really enjoying putting some stuff out there, because when I was first looking, there were a lot of people just showing what their patch does, but not then, you've got a patch, it sounds great, but there's wires going everywhere, you can't really tell what's going on. And it really helps when people break down their patches and explain some of the thought process behind things. I mean, here, for example, the dot on the squid work great together. The M is manual, so all I've got, if we turn everything else off, all I've got here is a kick. And these are mutes, M for mute in manual mode. That's a kick 4 on the floor. That's a hat coming out here, closed hat. And that's a little bit more of an open hat. So that's all I've got going on there. That's great. Those things, they just work really well together. Nice small setup. The squid gives you as many drum kits as you can fit on it. But I pretty much stick to a 909, sometimes a 707 or a 606. Even an 808, but not really as keen on that one. But yeah, standard 909 I think that's what we've got going on here. Do you know what? I don't even know. Let's have a look. Yeah, we're on the 909. And that's it. I just like that nice simple setup so that it's just out of the way. I can just play things. And then the majority of the setup is for demoing what I'm trying to show. So yeah, if you like the video, let me know and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.